This program is brought to you by Medical City, the Neely School of Business at TCU, and Community Trust Bank. Welcome to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. Now, here's your host, Siobhan Palmer.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. We're continuing our conversation today with the beautiful actress Ruta Lee. Ruta, when we went to break, we were talking about your Lithuanian heritage, how your family, you were born in Montreal, Canada. Now, your mom was a big proponent of getting you into show business. Knew her little girl would be the next Shirley Temple, as you said. Tell us how your Hollywood career started. I know that you had a stint at the famous Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Yes. Well, my professional career, before it became professional and I got paid, started on the church stage, you know, in the Lithuanian church, St. Casimir's. It's always St. Casimir's in every city, doing all kinds of stuff there. And then people heard about me, and I would be invited to go to Boston to perform at some Lithuanian event, or to New York for something. So
how old were you at the time?
Five, 6, 7, you know, in there. And then, of course, when we moved miraculously to Los Angeles, because you have to understand that this was in the late 40s, and it was after the war.
Wow.
So the Lithuanian quotas on which my mother and father were in Canada coming into the United States were filled with displaced persons. And I, by some miracle, their number was drawn, and we were able to leave Canada to move to Los Angeles. Wow. And it all started by my simply, again, working a little bit in the church hall, in the Lithuanian church hall, and beginning to go out on things. And then my mother hooked me up, God love her, with an actress, a character actress named Laura Casely Brooks, who, to keep body and soul together, was teaching, you know, film technique and so on and so forth, and acting. And she took me on, this youngster, as a student with her older people. She had maybe 6 or 7 students. And through her, she did those little get-togethers where she would, in a salon somewhere, or a rented room, would have agents and casting people come in. And believe it or not, from one of these things, I was signed briefly by 20th Century Fox. They saw me as the up-and-coming Ann Baxter, you know, that kind of an actress.
What a compliment! Yeah.
It was the end of the studio season where they trained young people. It was the end of the power of the big studios, so they let all their contract players go. But fortunately, I auditioned for and got the best movie ever made, as far as I'm concerned, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. And that was the beginning of, you know, a really long career. I have never reached, and it's getting a little late in life to do it now, superstardom.
Well, how do you define that, though? That's interesting. What is your definition of superstardom?
Well, one of them would be financial, to make, you know, to make 20 million a picture would be awfully nice. Yes. But while I've not ever done that, I have had longevity that very few actresses that started out in my generation that got big through television have had. I have continually worked for 50 years.
Which is remarkable.
It is remarkable.
Because Hollywood, as you well know, when women age, they don't. That's
right.
That's hard on the actresses. The guys keep going until they're in their 80s or 90s. But why is that still a huge problem in Hollywood? I mean, are you really unique in that aspect?
No, I'm not unique at all. We all face it.
Right.
My ability in lots of other areas, though, has carried me through beautifully, so that I'll never be broke.
Right.
Do you know that one of the most successful things that I have ever done in my life that netted me more financially than all the years in my career was my 5 years on Home Shopping Network as a star guest.
Guest. Interesting.
I did a fabulous product that is so good. The manufacturer was a very miserable human being, but everybody else was fabulous, and they were spray vitamins. You know, where you just spray like Banaka or anything.
How did you come up with that idea?
Well, my husband came up with it. He was a consultant in many fields. He came out of the fast food industry. My husband was executive vice president of McDonald's, having started as a counterman, you know. And then, so he knew the fast food industry very well.
Wow.
And he consulted in lots of areas. And he came across this product, and he said, this is sensational. And I had been invited down to Home Shopping Network, and I brought the product with me and said, looky here, would you guys be interested in this? Well, 5 fabulous years.
That's remarkable that it lasted that kind of a run.
Yes, and I mean, this was a product that was sold at like $9.95. So you had to sell one hell of a lot of that product to make money, but we all did well.
Let's go back, you know, talking about your Hollywood career. It has been remarkable both on the film and television side. Talk about some of the icons. I mean, you hung with some pretty high-profile folks, the legendary Lucille Ball. Tell us about Lucy.
One of my good friends.
Wow.
One of my good friends. Tough as nails about certain things.
Really good businesswoman?
She always said her husband was the businessman.
Yeah.
And I believe that that is the case.
Okay.
But a great dame, a fabulous, wonderful girl. And of course, little Lucy became a good friend of ours. And I loved her. And then, of course, to be leading lady to Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, Peter Lawford in Sergeants 3. And my one really big regret is that I did not have an affair with Frank Sinatra. I could have written a damn book.
You heard it here. I bet you could have. Yeah.
I was treated like the little sister that everybody took care of. They'd be out partying.
Were you always the
every
youngest
night.
among that crowd typically?
Oh,
Is that why they
sure.
protected you?
Sure.
Yeah.
And somehow, and the story of how I got that job of leading lady is so wonderful. How many minutes do we have?
We got plenty. This is a family show. How did you get that job?
Obviously the right way. No, I had been invited by the host of the world, a wonderful man named Scotty Rubin, to come and see Frank Sinatra perform live at the Mocambo. The Mocambo was floundering, as was Ciro's. These are the great nightclubs of Hollywood. And Mary Morrison, the widow of Charlie Morrison, was having troubles keeping it alive because television, you know, had taken over. And so Frank came in and said, Mary, I'll come in and play a week. Victor Moten will come in and play a week. Dean Martin will come in and play a week, and we'll see if we can't kind of revive it going. So now I'm invited by my host, and the place was jammed. The entire stage, which is very small in a nightclub, was filled with orchestra. So Frank was on a dais the size of the chair that we're sitting in, right in front, which means that some of the audience was almost like behind him, you know, going around, watching him from the side. We had the front row table. And I, of course, was mesmerized by Frank Sinatra. Nobody has ever been that kind of a club performer, that kind of a singer. So obviously he's captivating me. And a note comes to the table after his performance saying, Mr. Rubin, would you bring Miss Lee to my table? And so Mr. Rubin brought me back. And he's sitting around back of Frank Sinatra. And he introduced himself and he said, hello, my name is Arthur Hornblow Jr., and I am producing a film called Witness for the Prosecution. And I have just given you a very unique screen test. I watched you watch Frank Sinatra, and I think that you would be a very good love interest for Tyrone Power in my movie. Would you come in and see Mr. Wilder, Billy Wilder, who is directing? And I said, is tomorrow too soon, you know? And so I went in, stood in front of the camera, and they took a couple of shots of me. Marlene Dietrich took one look at those shots overnight and said, "Nick, nein, forget it." I was blonde, she was
Beautiful
blonde.
and
I
correct.
became a brunette overnight. They dipped my hair. I did the movie. Funny stories about that too that I can tell you. But fade out, fade in, and now it's one of the best pictures. By the way, Seven Brides and Witness for the Prosecution are two of the top 100 movies ever made.
Wow.
By the
Wow.
cognoscenti of Hollywood, right? Anyway, Frank Sinatra loved nothing more than entertaining at his home, big Italian dinners all the time,
Wow.
and run a movie. And what movie are they running but Witness for the Prosecution?
Ruta, can you hold that thought? I'm mesmerized here. I feel like you watching Frank Sinatra. We got to go to break. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the fabulous Ruta Lee. This is Siobhan Palmer with Platforms.